how do you see this MVP race shaking out? Right now, Josh Allen is the betting favorite. Number two is Lamar Jackson, who's having a better statistical season, which is kind of the opposite of last year. It was Lamar is the favorite, Josh Allen having more total touchdowns. Now, the narrative was out week one when Josh had 4 turnovers against the Jets that he has too many turnovers. And all these people that have the votes, I believe, made up their mind after week one last season, after that Monday Night Football game, that Josh Allen is not the MVP. He turns the ball over too much.
Agreed.
Number three, his odds went from plus 5,000 to plus 475. So dramatic increase for Saquon Barkley. So right now, that's kind of the 3-horse race for the MVP. How do you see this shaking out?
This is a really interesting conversation, isn't it? I mean, we've been down this road. We all know how valuable Josh is and how great he is and what he means to the Buffalo Bills. And I think we could make the argument over the last few years that, maybe he should have received it or not, but not to take anything away from Lamar last year and what he did and the seasons that other players have had that have won it over Josh. I would say this, though. I do think, and you brought it up, there is an inherent bias in voters with two things. Number one, turnovers for quarterbacks. When you look at a number that has a big turnover number, I think that for some reason, a lot of voters are still very old school, Eric, and think, well, he turns the ball over too much. Whoever that is, I can't vote for him for MVP. Whereas we know, look, that's the way Josh plays, and we will take that because all of the positive he gives you, even with some of the turnovers he's had in his career, the good far outweighs the bad. So you can give me a turnover, a bad interception, a bad fumble, because I'm going to get 3 incredible plays that turn into touchdowns from Josh Allen because of that. So I think from us being close up to it, we know that, but that's just not how voters think. It's unfortunate because I think they're just stuck in this old school mentality of turnovers are so bad, we can't vote for somebody who has, a high turnover rate, which has really hurt Josh. But what's happened this year? He's been so good at protecting the ball. Oh, coincidentally, now he's the MVP favorite, right? Because I think people see this is, hey, I can vote for a guy who's going to take care of the football. I just think it's a bad way to think, but it's actually helping Josh. The other thing that actually does help Josh here, I also think there's an inherent bias against running backs from voters.
Yeah.
And I think I might agree with that. I get it. Like, Saquon's having an amazing year. To me, he might be the NFL Offensive Player of the Year. But to give a running back an MVP, even I fall into this. I don't know if I can do that in the year 2024. Like, how much are you really losing and gaining between running backs from different teams when they go out and you have, above replacement? Maybe I'm the one that's naive or old school too much about it because I know that Saquon has been amazing. And I'm not taking anything away. And I know that, the narrative on and the talk about the Giants letting him go when he goes to the Philadelphia Eagles. But I think that there are too many voters who also think like that and say, I'm not giving it to a running back. And even then, even if they do, there are some people who would say, well, I might give it to Hurts over, Saquon, and they might divide up some votes there. But I think that plays into Josh's favor, that the fact that even though Saquon is having this great year and he's getting a lot of momentum, there probably aren't enough voters, I think, that would want to give it to a running back.
Right. There hasn't been a running back MVP since Adrian Peterson in 2012. And then when you look at the pace that Saquon's on, now I'll say this, if he goes out and breaks Eric Dickerson's single season rushing record, that's going to put him heavily in the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And then it becomes dicey. He's also on pace to break Chris Johnson's single season all-purpose yards record right now.
Amazing.
Now, can he keep this pace? We'll see. I mean, teams are going to start fully focusing on him. Now, does that help Hurts in the passing game on the outside? Probably, but teams are going to start focusing on him so much just with this pace he's on right now. Back to the point about Josh Allen and the turnovers, I almost feel like some of the maybe arrogance of the voters saying, well, Josh hurt us last year. He hurt us in our media appearances, say that he turns the ball over too much. And now he's playing like we want him to play and how he should have been playing.
Yeah, right.
And some of it's the stylistic approach of the Bills right now. They're throwing a ton of screens, and they're not to the running backs, a ton of screens to the wide receivers. And we've seen Josh pick up a ton of yards after the catch this season, especially from guys like Shakir. Those guys have really helped Josh's numbers, but they've given Josh some just easy outlet throws within games where he's not just having to push the ball down the field. Josh, break the pocket and make a play down the field. They've gotten out of that approach so much that it's really helped his turnover numbers.
Yeah, and I'll say this too, because of the Saquon conversation. Wasn't this the same conversation a month and a half ago about Derrick Henry? Like, Derrick Henry was the guy that we were talking about, but then you have Lamar on his team, right? You look at the Eagles, and they have they have both Saquon and Jalen Hurts. And Jalen Hurts has had some ups and downs, but he's playing really good football right now. And then you have obviously Lamar, who's an MVP, candidate and one of the favorites, and Derrick Henry's having this great season. And I just think that the way it works sometimes, you're gonna have a lot of people kind of trying to dissect what's going on with those teams and who's the most valuable and who you give it to. I don't think there's no debate on the Buffalo Bills. It's not like Josh Allen's going against his own teammate James Cook, who's having a nice year, but James Cook isn't the most valuable player on the Bills, and none of the wide receivers. It's Josh Allen. This team is 9-2, and Josh Allen is, I'm not saying the reason. Of course, there's a lot of reasons for it, but that's the guy, right? I mean, you look at these other teams, and they have these players at these other positions, quarterback and running back, and AJ Brown, in Philadelphia, and what he's doing when he's healthy. And I just think that any rational voter would look and say, oh my God, in a year where the Bills, we were all told, Eric, going to take a step back, right?
Yep.
Step back, reset, rebuild, whatever, transition. Even Brandon Beane said transition year, however you want to take that. In a year like that, here they are with their best record after 11 games since 1992, the best start in the McDermott Beane era.
Yeah. And you also had Josh have a signature moment. Those signature moments count.
Yes.
It was Lamar Jackson in his first MVP win when he took off down the middle of the field. He spins out against the Bengals and takes it to the house. That was his signature MVP moment. I believe Josh's was his final 26-yard run against the Chiefs to seal the game. And then I believe if Josh plays well against the Lions, which is going to, I mean, the Bills Chiefs game had the highest number of viewers since 2007 or 2008. It was a Colts Patriots matchup. So it's 15 years,
amazing,
16, 17 years later. That's the highest number of viewers. And so that Bills Lions game could catch some serious ratings as well. If Josh is able to have a nice game in Detroit, I think he seals the deal there, because as hard as it is, it's not like college football where one game can take you out of it. If you have a serious MVP moment again against the Lions, I think it's over. Josh Allen takes it this year. And look, Josh is going to tell you, I don't care about the MVP. I don't care about Pro Bowl. I don't care about the All Pro. I care about winning a championship. Well, you know what? I care. I care for Josh because I felt like he's deserved it in the past. I felt like he should have been way more in the conversation last year when he had 51 total touchdowns to Lamar's 34. I understand the turnovers there. When you put the team on your back like he did last year on that final stretch, they went 5 in a row to win the division, get the 2 seed. I just feel like he should have been more in the conversation last year, and I want it for him. And you know what? He's going to tell you he doesn't care. Well, Eric Wood cares. And
well,
I know, and I know it'd mean a lot to Bills fans as well.
Eric, and I'm sure he's going to say that. I'm sure Josh Allen would love it, though, right? He'd love to win the MVP. Of course he would. Who wouldn't want to have, an honor like that bestowed upon him? No doubt about it. It's not the end all be all. His goal is to win a Super Bowl. We all know that. But I do think there are clues this year that I've picked up on going back to even August, when even Sean McDermott, well, Josh has goals. I remember he said that at some point. Josh has, personal goals as well, however he phrased it. And then I remember a few weeks ago, we were in the locker room and Deion Dawkins mentioned something like, we really want to, what Josh, what we want for Josh or something. The way he phrased it got me thinking, I think they want it for him. I think the Bills organization, I think his players, his teammates, I think they all know, like, we got an MVP here. Let's get this guy the MVP. And yes, we all know that's not trumping winning a Super Bowl, but I think it matters in that building. And why wouldn't it, right? I mean, the Bills have only had one MVP in their history. That was Thurman Thomas in the 1990s, an NFL MVP. To have an MVP in your building, an MVP player, is an amazing accomplishment for any organization. Why would they not want that? And I'm sure they do. I think it matters to his teammates. I think Josh would love to have an MVP. It's not the thing that he's after more than anything. It's a Super Bowl, but I do think it matters. And they're not going to come out and say that, because that's not just how people talk. And it's certainly not how this organization and the people associated with it talk. But I think it matters to everybody down there.
Yeah, I think so as well. And Josh says all the right things, but he is a ball buster. He's petty. And to win it this year, when Diggs leaves and everyone says, he was the reason for your success. Look at his
being number one trash talker and now maybe MVP, right? I mean, like,
yeah, I think
number one overrated. Whatever, remember that stuff?
Yeah, number one overrated player in the NFL. Also voted the number one trash talker in the NFL. And then you lose Diggs, and you're going to do it with this everybody eats mentality, which
Yeah.
in weeks 4 and 5 was mocked, and everyone said, "Well, everybody eats." Well, nobody eats when you play a good team. Well, now look, and I think that just behind closed doors, the pettiness that Josh can possess in pro athletes in general. I mean, you live to throw stuff in people's faces, and so I think it would mean a lot to him to especially win it this year.